Okay, this is my third and final video on Asperger. Um, I really want to wrap up by stating that it's that many of the great historical figures in science and mathematics may have had at least a little bit of Asperger. Yeah, Newton and Einstein are considered examples of people who might have had it. Jefferson and Franklin may have had it. But on the other hand, I don't want to really name drop in this video. There are all kinds of claims about historical figures that can be made. I've learned as in my studies of history to, be very skeptical of claims that are made. You have to go to primary source documents. You have to really delve into it. What I would say, though, is that, in the case of Einstein, he did manifest a lot of the tendencies of adults on the Asperger spectrum. The world of his time, in a lot of ways, was more tolerant than later decades would have been. Einstein was not a great success before 1905, and even after 1905, he struggled. Even after his miracle year, he struggled to find employment. Even after relativity became, well, let's put it this way: his theoretical calculations were admired. It wasn't proven yet. Sir Arthur Eddington hadn't come on the scene yet, but at the very least. There was an acknowledgement of his genius, but even then, he struggled for a basic position as a science teacher. Why? Well, I think a lot of you who are adults, on the spectrum, you understand why. He had to struggle against social intolerance, but at the time, in some ways, the world may have even been more tolerant in, let's say, 1905, 1910 than in 2005, 2010, because in those days there was still the idea of, let's say, science and math as something an individual did. Wasn't today, it's something a team does. So, there have been some differences in, and today, to be honest with you, let's say to get a position in education, it's often about whom you know, not what you know. And so, really, a position in society is often about whom you know and not what you know. And I think in some ways we've taken a step backwards, and a lot of you struggle over that. On the other hand, there's more of an awareness about disability, and there's more of an awareness about the idea of a hidden disability. So you take the good with the bad. The biggest thing that I've had to learn is not to compare myself to standards that are out there in society. Why didn't I complete the PhD in mathematics or physics? Why don't I have a professorial position? Why, aren't my ideas taken more seriously in academic circles or in intellectual circles? And the answer is, well, that's just not my way. It's not, we all... this is going to sound very metaphysical, but it's really very practical. We manifest in the world what our, what our destiny is. That doesn't mean some kind of magical thing. What it means is just practically, we are going to be what we're going to be. We have a nature, and if you're, I don't believe that I'm either genetic crap nor am I the next step in human evolution. I think both of these are. One is low self-esteem and the other is some compensatory thing. The fact of the matter is, I am who I am. You are who you are. And my interest, my way in the world is going to be what my way in the world is. Succeed or fail, it's going to be what it is. And so the greatest way that I've been able to overcome difficulties is A, to realize that, I have a neurological difference from other people. B, and B, not to compare myself favorably or unfavorably. Both of these are illusions. You're going to be what you're going to be, and I can focus on being the best aspect of who I am that I'm going to be. I believe there is no cure. I believe that there is no program or something that's going to cure you. There are programs that can help, sure, great, but I think the best cure for feeling bad about yourself is psychological self-knowledge and a sense of, confidence in that what your interests are, you can succeed in, and broaden. There's nothing wrong with broadening your interests. I also believe, I may have stated this before, but I believe that there's no hierarchy of, that some people with Asperger are more higher functioning than others. In other words, there's the idea that, let's say, like myself, I'm interested in prime numbers or I'm interested in set theory, that somehow that's um, more intellectual than, let's say, if you're interested in paper airplanes or trains, something like that. That's nonsense. I mean, what you're interested in is what you're interested in. It's what you make a study of is what you make a study of. And if you can make some kind of way in the world, then that's your way in the world. I mean, that for me, I struggle to make a way in the world in large part because of, habits that I've accrued that are difficult to break. So, some of you may have made your way in the world a lot better than me. So, actually, to be honest, there's no, in my opinion, there's no higher, but see, even there, I could care less. There's no higher or lower functioning. Bacteria are more advanced than humans because they've been here longer and they survive. So, if you've survived in the world, that's a good thing. That's something to feel proud of. So the thing I would say is, if you want to not just survive but thrive psychologically, the very best thing one can do, and this I think is important, is one can find good people to include as part of one's social network. Even if whether they're Aspergerites or neurotypicals, it doesn't matter. To find good people with whom one can belong, who don't practice the art of psychological bullying. If there's a psychological bully in one's life, I mean, they've got to go. That's doesn't matter how interesting they are. It doesn't matter how, doesn't matter. Obviously, if it's a spouse, then sure, you try to work things out. That's different. But if we're talking about a friend, they're not a friend if they're psychological bullies. So finally, I want to end with a true and simple fact. And the true and simple fact is that Einstein may have been on the Asperger spectrum, and this may be true, but you don't want to compare yourself with a hierarchy of success or failure even on the Asperger spectrum. I mean, Einstein was Einstein. Einstein was meant to do as Einstein was meant to do. You and I are meant to do as we're meant to do. And the biggest way to really to go even beyond thriving, to transcending, to getting above that which to really getting above, so you can really be who you are as a self-actualizer, is to be willing to do that which sometimes strikes fear in you. Maybe it's doing a YouTube video like this. It's especially about this subject. It can be anxiety provoking, but my biggest way I have of overcoming is to just kind of overcome and just kind of do it. So that's my life on the Asperger spectrum. I'm not autistic. I'm not neurotypical. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not a savant. I'm not anything like that. I just kind of have my way in the world and have my way of doing things. And the biggest thing, those of you who are not on the Asperger spectrum, the biggest thing I can say is that I can share with you what I've learned the most, and I hope that this profits you. And that is, at one time, before I knew I had Asperger, I would look at somebody who was different and maybe get a little bit afraid. Maybe they even had Asperger. To be honest, I'd be a little bit afraid. I wouldn't want to cross that line. But since coming to a point of self-knowledge, I'm less likely to do that. I'm less likely to look at the world as a hierarchy of, functioning people up here and not so well functioning people down here. I look at the world more as a mosaic. And I think that's the best thing that has happened to me in this whole process of discovering more about who I am. And I think that that's something that society would benefit from. Anyways, I thank you very much. Appreciate it. And all the best to all of you.